go from, one part of the country where it's all vegetation, trees, to you go more towards the west, it's all, deserts, cacti everywhere, and just
gonna catch that train.
different regions, coast to coast, west coast, east coast. We're all the same. We're all Americans, and we're unified as one country, one nation. But we're all different. We're all special where we are. All the cool things we have, whether it's Hollywood and
I think it's great.
It's great.
I think it's just rainbows and butterflies.
When I was young, my parents thought it was a good idea for us to spend 2 weeks each summer driving halfway across the country and back. Sometimes we stopped at a place I thought was almost worth the drive, like the Washington Monument or a Big Boy's restaurant with those fun comic books. Most of the time, I looked out the car window in boredom. What were we doing out here in the middle of nowhere? Was this really the best way to spend a vacation? Companies like General Motors that wanted us to buy cars sure thought so. They even got actress Gail Storm and her family to do a short film in the 1950s on how to take a road trip. We learned important things like not to trust old coots with directions.
I'm confused.
I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I'm sleepy.
And I'm positive that old coot told us this was the shortcut to...
Sometimes you do things differently when you're the parent. Other times you do things the same. When it came to summer vacations, I took a page from my parents. Sometimes we'd fly to Disney or Dallas, but many times we drove a long way, a real long way. One summer, I even decided to take my kids on a trip that would go beyond what Mom and Dad took us on. I'm not sure why. The kids were growing up fast.
My name is Preston Shea, and we're the Museum of Art.
Hi, my name is McKenna Shea. I'm here at...
Oh, my.
After a divorce, I only saw them about half the week. I wanted to do something we would really remember before it got to be too late. We had 16, maybe 17 days to drive as far across this land as we could. We made a list of places we really wanted to see. At the top of both Preston's and McKenna's lists were two where they had yet to go that were all the way across the country, Hollywood and Las Vegas. That was the first time I recalled them actually agreeing on something.
Are you dumb? I need my Pop-Tarts, leave me alone.
Besides not wanting to go by car. They thought we could fly from landmark to landmark. So we took off one late June day. It was Hollywood or bust. Between here and there were a whole lot of sections of nowhere. In 1903, many Americans thought the railroad would long remain the primary mode of cross-country transportation. Among those who believed in the automobile was physician Horatio Nelson Jackson. To win a $50 bet, he and mechanic Sewell Crocker drove a 1903 Winton touring car called the Vermont, 4,500 bumpy miles from San Francisco to New York City. The trip took 64 days. In Idaho, Jackson acquired Bud, a bulldog who wore goggles to protect his eyes from dust. That first cross-country road trip helped give Henry Ford and Company the inspiration to pursue mass production that made cars cheap enough for many more people to afford them. Building highways became more of a priority. The Lincoln Highway became the first completed road between New York and San Francisco in the 1920s. These days, more than 5 million Americans take a road trip of at least 1,000 miles each year. Relatively few of them are aware of Horatio Nelson Jackson. After driving through a lot of crowded industrial areas in Ohio, Preston is more interested in the exhibits at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. McKenna can take or leave it. They both like the surprise in Chicago. We usually stay at budget hotels and motels, but I decide to splurge on a room on the 23rd floor of the Trump International Hotel and Tower. It's the third tallest building in the country, and the kids are especially impressed that there is a built-in TV in the bathroom. At the top of the country's second tallest building, the Willis Tower, we take in the view on the ledge. The glass boxes extend out about 4 feet from the skyscraper's skydeck on the 103rd floor, providing more direct glimpses of downtown streets way below. Being 6'7", I'm generally not scared of heights, but I'm glad to get off the ledge.
Yeah.
The Badlands. Badlands. South
Why is it
Dakota.
called
I want to jump.
Don't jump. Don't jump.
Wait, why is it called Badlands?
Because it's bad to be here.
We get to Mount Rushmore at almost sundown, just in time for a patriotic concert on this 4th of July Eve, attended by hundreds. We sing the national anthem, an appropriate thing to do here. As we view the likenesses of presidents in the stone, the kids are strangely quiet. You still want to go to Hollywood? I ask later. We can just head south to Texas from here, instead of continuing west if you're tired of so much driving. The kids surprise me. We want to continue west, they say, almost in unison. They agree, once again. Something weird is going on. John Denver blares on the radio as the CRV climbs over a part of the Rocky Mountain Range. I wonder about the Old West wagon trains making this pass more than a century before. I haven't seen a car for miles. I get into a contemplative cloud, though staying alert enough. It's relaxing, therapeutic, watching the mountains and valley pass by, in a show that can't be recreated on the newest HD TV. Out here, I can think more clearly than I have in a while. It's the 4th of July, and the kids want to see fireworks. We find a rodeo in Cody before locating a motel. As we were about to bed down, I notice fireworks against the distant mountains. We run outside and take in the show, just as planned. Utah has more than its share of nowhere space. On the highway with its 80-mile-per-hour speed limits, there aren't many cars. I have a National Parks pass and consider stopping at Zion National Park, but the kids want to reach Vegas. I let them win this one. It's a good thing because it's after 9 p.m. when we arrive in the neon desert city. They are intrigued, and we stay an extra day at the New York Hotel. I let them ride a 67-mile-per-hour roller coaster. The 85-mile-per-hour car ride was enough for me. We spend much of the day at the pool, playing water volleyball. The Santa Monica Pier, with its roller coaster and Ferris wheel, looms ahead, but that isn't our destination. The sand of the Pacific is our draw, our mecca. I take our little dude, a 2-foot-tall Little Tikes boy action figure Preston received as a gift when he was 2. We usually take little dude with us on our road trips to guard the car when we aren't in it. His perpetual goofy grin and always open eyes are a little spooky, though I doubt he really keeps evil spirits away. But I figure we need all the protection we can get, both real and imagined. Following tours of movie studios and the Hollywood sign, we make our way to the Pacific again to see the ocean in the daytime. The water is cool but not cold, refreshing. For an hour or so, we are free, without a care, suspended above even the sketchy confines of road trip schedules and expectations. We splash each other and run along the beach. We search for nothing but a moment in the setting sun. I don't even worry about how I will get us some 400 miles to Steve's house in Phoenix that night. We've made it this far. We'll make it there somehow. After a day that included hiking at Sedona and the Grand Canyon, you would think I would be looking for the closest motel, but I feel strangely energized and want to hit the road. Maybe there's something to places like Sedona being a power point, where you can tune into energy when you need it. I feel like I can drive all night, so I do. It's quiet, except for Springsteen singing about being born to run the open road. The desert is cool during the day, but at night she's downright hypnotic. The sky opens up before us like a dark, rich planetarium. I can see galaxies, even without my reading glasses. Over the Texas border, we stop at Cadillac Ranch, and McKenna adds to the colorful cars with their own artistic creation. Somehow, I get by on catnaps. I hadn't pulled too many all-nighters on road trips, but this is my second in 3 nights, and this one is stretching well into the next day's afternoon. When we finally pull into the familiar Dallas neighborhood where Mom has lived since 1965, I'm still not that tired. We talk about the trip over dinner, which makes me recall the summer road trips of my youth. I realize that is what I remember more about my youth than anything. I wish I had appreciated those trips more when I was in their midst.
One time on the way back from Albuquerque, when we were driving through West Texas, never saw anything so dark in my life. Had a flat tire, so yeah. Had to kind of pull into a rest area and then go the next morning and get a tire to put on. So
yeah,
it's all these little things do crop up, but for the most part, most of the trips have been real good.
A day later, we hit the road again. Got to get back to work in Maryland. Around Little Rock, I'm getting these crazy thoughts of driving all night for the 3rd time in 6 nights. I guess I want to really push the edges. I put thoughts out of my mind that we might have a flat tire at 80 miles per hour. The mental toughness and patience developed through road trips and long walks come in handy at such times. I met some monks on one walk who would chant a Buddhist prayer for enlightenment. They said it helps you reach a state where you feel like you're flying, walking, or driving on air, where everything works as it's supposed to, where nothing matters except making the next mile. At that point, it's hard to tell where your body ends and the car seat and gas pedal begin. I want to reach such a state. It's got to be better than this stretch of Arkansas.
Highway blues, highway blues, born to lose with the highway blues, said a highway blues.
As we approach D.C. late the next evening, I should be glad this trip is near the end. It's been exhausting, but I'm not all that tired. I haven't felt this alive in I don't know how long. Soon Michelle and Toby greet us at their house. Should there be a larger welcoming committee to help us celebrate driving almost 7,000 miles the past 17 days. Somehow, it's appropriate that there is not. The kids are tired and don't say much as I drop them off. The door clangs shut. I'm alone for what seems like the first time in ages. I sit there, not anxious to start the CRV again. I think of the open road, the feeling of freedom you find during certain moments cruising down the highway in the middle of nowhere, the excitement of not knowing exactly where you will end up that night. I am glad to have shared that with my kids, if for just a little more than 2 weeks. So did we find something in the middle of nowhere? Like most hunts, it was something that we didn't expect. We found adventure. We found perseverance. We found the kind of bond that you can only get through the shared experience of attempting something that some might consider foolish. We found that it's true that you can only find out how far you can go when you risk going too far. And I found a bit of my childhood. I can't sit around for too long. No other car lights greet me as I turn into the 2-lane street in front of Michelle's house. The moon, almost full, shines high in the sky in front of me. I roll down the window and rest my arm on the top of the door frame. The night air blowing in softly through the open window feels cool on my face. For the moment, all seems right. What a great night for a drive.
I guess you've heard my story. It's a sunny southern song. It is down in Mississippi where I took the road that's wrong.
I wouldn't say I was bored in the middle of nowhere. It was actually very exciting because it was a great change. You know, living in Maryland, you know, there's recent trees, buildings, and civilization everywhere you go. So it's a lot different from being in the middle of nowhere in the west part of the country, like, you know, in Wyoming. It's an open road, and, you know, there's just desert and rocks everywhere. But it was at night. I remember, like it was yesterday actually. It was nighttime driving on the open road. You know, it's actually a great experience, a great feeling. You know, I wasn't bored. I was just really enjoying the scenery. Even at night, just kind of, you can hear the wolves howling. It was very different, but very intriguing, so I really enjoyed that experience.
Would you ever go on that long of a trip again? Of a drive, a road trip?
I don't know. Well, maybe. It depends on who I go with. You know, maybe I'll do it with my friends.
For 10 long years, working so hard, I could not see we were drifting apart. Gonna catch that train, she done me wrong, I'm coming home. Somebody help me, I can't help myself. Mama help me, ain't got no one else. Gonna catch that train, way it's gonna be. Somebody help me. Gonna catch that train,